Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.
Okay, this is kind of a fun mayfly. It's a really good one to tie for kind of your meteor mayflies like drakes. I guess you could probably do a hex pattern, even though we don't get those here, so I haven't played with it much. But it mixes the head of a comparadon and a muddler minnow. I think Alan Gretchen Beatty do something similar. They call it the muddle may, or I've seen flies called the spundun. So it's kind of just a takeoff of that, doing it in my style, I guess. We're using just, I guess any thread would work. None of it's going to show up except at the head, and I'm going to switch to GSP when we do that. But this is Olive Done UNI-Thread. All right, I'm just going to use some Coq de Leon fibers, 7 or 8 of them. And I'm going to kind of split it, but not really. So I want the tails to be as long as the body. So we're going to kind of exaggerate those. So what I'm going to do to split these is I'm going to come up under them with my thumbnail. I'm just going to push on them and it fans them all out. Then you can grab roughly half of them and pull them to one side. And crisscross over. And do the same thing on the other side. So you've got pretty split fibers there. We have 2 that are kind of being... Okay, now, what is this? It's going through puberty already. Get out of there. Okay, a lot of the drakes have pretty bright yellow bodies, so what I'm going to use is a really cool product. These are strip wild turkey biots, barred biots, and this is dyed fluorescent chartreuse. And the cool thing is it looks like they're barred, just, you know, a couple feathers are one color, a couple feathers aren't. But as you wrap these, you get a really distinct effect where it's almost like a rib that goes up through the fly. And I'm going to tie that notch down like this. You see the little notch on the bottom. And I'm actually going to get it a little bit wet. So wrap it in place. Maybe a tiny bit of a taper, but not much, because mayfly adults don't have a lot of taper to them, in the body anyway. And then I'm just going to wrap that forward, and I really like to wrap biots using the rotary feature of the vise. That way you can see exactly where every wrap is going. So you can kind of see how the ridge is dark and the kind of the bulk body of the biot is light colored. Super cool effect. Okay, so that's the bulk of our mayfly here. Now one thing is, we're going to actually spin the deer hair on the head of this. And so in order to keep the deer hair from pushing back over the top of this biot, I'm actually going to build up a little bit of a bumper of dubbing. And I'm just going to use Nature Spirit Snowshoe rabbit foot dubbing in, I think this is gray olive. So I'll just wrap that in and make ourselves a healthy little bump. Okay, so I've gotten rid of my other thread, and I'm going to tie in some 50 Denier GSP thread for the spinning of the hair. It doesn't really matter what color this thread is because it won't show. Alright, so now we have Nature Spirit spinning deer hair, and this is like a light olive color. You can see it's like almost yellowish chartreuse-ish. Okay, so we're just going to use the regular peak stacker. We're still going to get a pretty healthy amount of hair for a size 12. So I've got about this much hair, and I'm going to hurry and brush it out and get all those under fibers out of her. That's super critical, because if we're spinning, that stuff will impede the hair from spinning properly. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the fibers and kind of lay those so that they're maybe a little bit longer than the body of the fly. And then I'm just going to take maybe 3 loose wraps, cinch it, and as I cinch, I'm going to let go of the hair. So now it's distributed all that hair around the hook. And now all I'm going to do is I'm not going to put any more clumps of hair on it. I'm just going to wrap my thread through the butts of hair up to the eye. And I've covered up the eye, which is completely fine. So I'll just come in here and compress it with my fingers. No fugly packer needed. And now my thread is right here by the eye. I will just tie off with a whip finish. Okay, so now we've got this monstrosity on the vise. Some of these fibers are even out of focus. So I'm going to come in here and kind of pick through these fibers with a needle to make sure there aren't any fibers that are trapped down. And instead of using a razor blade, I'm just going to come in here with my scissors and find a good angle and cut it and just kind of work that angle all the way around the hook. We use so few hairs here, we really don't need to do a razor blade. Okay, and then any of these longer fibers that are kind of mixed in with your good hairs, you just pull out with your fingers. Okay, so that's kind of a little mini muddler head that we could use. So we're just going to come in here now on the bottom and clip it flush. And maybe clip it up the sides a little bit too. And if you want to come in here and make the head a little bit more pronounced, like I'm doing here, you can do that, but it'll fish just like this. Get rid of a few more of these. And then push our hairs up like this. And those little tail fibers are really being jerks right now, man. So that's basically it. It's you know, has all the bulk up at the front. It's going to sit nice and high. Really durable fly. Now to get the wing to stick like that, you can take some of this head cement. You kind of come in here right behind it. Soak that in a little bit. And there you have it. The Muddler Mayfly variation, green drake style.